welcome to Widnes Rugby Chat episode 24. A quick apology actually from me. We've had some technical gremlins, which means that there's not all of the video that I wanted to show you from the members' night last week is available, but I have got a chat with Kieron Purtill and Hep Cahill from the members' night where a few further questions and insight is provided to what's been going on at the club. I have had a bit of a scour through the Q&A. I think from last week's episode everything was pretty much covered there. There is another night at the club on Wednesday next week, which is for sponsors. I'll be there as well, so there may be some further insight from that, which I will endeavour to provide you on next week's show, possibly the week after, depending on how it all goes. Bit of a rush one this week, I must apologise. I unfortunately won't be at the Summer Bash. I am working in Barcelona. Someone's got to, so I'm off there on Thursday to go and cover the Catalan-Wigan game at the new camp. Bit of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, that one. I did look at trying to get back for Blackpool on Sunday. Unfortunately, it wasn't possible, but of course, we'll be tuning in on Sky. A quick word actually on Challenge Cup. The defeat against Wakefield last week, 26-6. Thought very harsh scoreline on Widnes. 3 late tries scored by Wakefield, putting a bit of gloss on the scoreline. I still haven't seen any highlights anywhere, and I'd love to see the second Wakefield try again, because I felt that Widnes were a little hard done to. I thought Jack Owens might have grounded it in goal off David Fafita's kick. He then pinched the ball and scored a try, and I have no doubt that that was one of the reasons why Jack Owens had a pop at the touch judge, which resulted in his red card. He got sent off with about 16 minutes to go, which was 12-6 at that time. And I think without that try, if it had stayed, the longer it stayed 6-6, I think the more Widnes may have fancied it. Obviously it wasn't to be, and then eventually in the last 5 or 6 minutes, Widnes ran out of legs. Of course, the extra man, Wakefield were basically just using the extra man and scoring in the corners, which made it look like I've not really seen anyone talk about it as a potential upset or anything like that over the weekend, whereas if it had finished 12-6, maybe Widnes might have got a bit more credit than they did do. Jack Owens, of course, sent off for dissent. I've been told what he has said, and I probably shouldn't repeat it on this show, but a 2-match ban for him, so he'll sit out the game against Leigh on Sunday and York next week. Disappointing, I suppose, from Widnes' point of view to lose a player in that manner. Especially, at the moment when bodies, there's, Widnes short on bodies. I believe Oliver Ashore-Bott has started training again, so he's obviously not too far away, but I'd imagine Lloyd Roby will probably go in at fullback. I think he's probably had his best games there. A lot's going to depend on whether Gelling's back, of course, and maybe even Harrison Hansen, and then push Christine into the centres perhaps. So that's a possible option for this week. A big game, it has to be said, against Leigh. Of course, Leigh will probably want to get one back on Widnes after the Good Friday game. And of course, Widnes had a few iffy results since then. The 3 defeats to Batley, Dewsbury and York. But if you look at Widnes' record against the top teams this season, it's been exemplary. And I'm sure that they'll want to keep that going at the weekend. A few other bits from this week before I push you out onto the interview with Kieron Purtill and Hep Cahill from the members' night last week. A bit of grief. The club got a bit of grief, or I suppose it depends which way you look at it, the club or the fans. 87 fans apparently went to Wakefield on Friday, as reported in one of the trade papers this week. I'm not sure how they come to that figure. There certainly wasn't many Widnes fans, but I'm not sure how you can be that specific, because, I've seen a few other comments like this. I went and paid for my ticket. I wasn't wearing Widnes colours. I was actually wearing my Love Rugby League jacket, and no one asked me who I supported, and I went in through the home end, and so I'm not sure having a swipe at fans is a great thing to do, especially not Widnes fans after all the fundraising and efforts that have been done this week. And we're always told that away fans don't matter, and that's when that's one of the arguments when people moan about, well, Toronto, Catalan, whoever don't bring any fans. Well, we're told that away fans don't matter, so you can't have it both ways. They either do or they don't, and so I'm sure there'll be a great support, a great travelling support to Blackpool on Sunday. Of course, 10 years ago this year, since the Northern Rail Cup win against Barrow, which ticked the box for Super League. I've seen the 40th anniversary dinner for the Challenge Cup win over Wakefield. I've not seen a 10-year anniversary dinner for the Northern Rail Cup. I'd like to see that, so if the club are watching, then maybe they could get some of the old guard together. Gavin Dodd, I'm sure he'd be available for a night there. So just a quick comment on that. As I mentioned earlier, there's a sponsors event being organised by Dave Rolt and Tracy Mohiney, one of the directors. I've got that wrong. It's Tracy Glendenning, isn't it? I've got that wrong. I'll cut that out. On Wednesday, there's a sponsors event on Wednesday night at the club. There's information on the official club website at the moment. It's basically for all current, past, lapsed, or potential sponsors to give a bit of outline what the club is hoping to achieve, and some insight into both its problems and its prospects. It's fair to say. My understanding is that the club are fairly comfortable or fairly confident about next season in terms of where they need to be and what they need to be to compete next season. A massive opportunity, and probably the last opportunity really to have a real go at pushing for Super League. Of course, you're never quite sure who's going to come up in these silly American teams that are being shoehorned in. So next season may well be the best opportunity Widnes get of getting back into Super League. And of course, with the season ticket money and the sponsorship money, that will be a big boost for next season. So like I say, I think there's no concerns necessarily about next season. It's just getting through the remainder of this season, and I'm sure that Dave Rolt and those at the club will provide plenty of information on that to prospective sponsors on Wednesday. Important, of course, that the local businesses and the local community gets behind the club. We don't want a repeat of what happened previously, and of course now you know that the club is in good hands and it's not going to get frittered away on people's salaries. So if you are a local business watching, or if you work for a local business or even a national business, or you know of a business who may be interested, then please do get in touch with the club. Have a look on the website. If you want to leave a comment or whatever on these videos, I will be there on Wednesday night and I can pass on any messages if you can't find it on the club website. I'll take this opportunity as well to thank our sponsors: Musical All Sorts, PD Law, Arnold, Gorse Financial Management and Deals, the Jewellers. I know PD Law have already confirmed for the club night on Wednesday, so hopefully they'll get involved with sponsorship at the club as well. A few other bits. You may have seen my article on the debt, on the pre-administration debt at Widnes, £600,000, including more than £300,000 to the council, which of course I revealed after a Freedom of Information request earlier in the year. Pretty damning, some of the figures, and a lot of comment has been made. Less than a year ago the former CEO said that the club was debt free and the historical debt had cleared, and clearly that was a blatant lie. So and obviously a concerning thing. If you watched last week's episode with Phil Finney, the Q&A with Phil Finney, he revealed that the club has had to honour some of the debts of the old club to basically keep their supply chains open. Of course, rugby league's a small game, it's a small world, and if you've not paid supplies in rugby, or you've not paid clubs in rugby, or you've not paid the RFL, or if you've not paid local hospitals, there's not really much, you're not going to be able to use them again. So the new club has had to honour some of those debts. Obviously, I've had a lot of tweets asking, well, what can be done to sort of, hold the previous owners to account, and it's difficult to see. I mean, I've had a few Twitter exchanges about this. Obviously, it's very difficult because you've got private companies, sports clubs, and I think I've said this before, sports clubs are massive community interest companies technically, but they're all still private limited companies, and there's a lot of protection in place for directors there. There may still be things that come out in the woodwork. I've certainly got a few irons in Freedom of Information request fires all over the place at the moment, so I'm just waiting to see if some of those come back, and if and when they do, maybe they may help explore some other avenues. The other difficulty is you don't want to do anything that may harm the new club. You may have noticed a couple of the debts, one being HMRC, one being pensions. If pension contributions haven't been paid, and there's an investigation into those, it may even come back on the new club. So there's also that, and then of course who brings the action, because if someone needs to take action against someone, I don't think it's going to be very likely it gets to criminal proceedings. So the other argument is, well, who's going to bring that case? So I'm not too sure what will happen there, but we'll keep digging and see what we can find. There's been an update on the club website as well about Vicky and their latest statement from Jason. He's clarified where Vicky's or what's happening with Vicky. So he's basically they've appointed a board. So there's 5, I think, board members, and their profiles are on the Vicky website, which is viqi.org. www.widnesrugbychat.co.uk. And Jason has outlined what's happened with the funds. So if you've not read that, the statements on both the club website and on the Vicky website. I guess some of the questions that I get asked, the main ones to be answered are the £100,000 that was raised via the GoFundMe page that Bethany Pennington, who's been on this show, set up. That went into the club to help it running. A further 25,000 has gone on ensuring the players didn't have to take a pay cut after the administration, so that plugged that gap. And I think a part of the 100,000 is basically 25,000 of the 100,000 effectively bought the fans a place on the board, which of course is occupied by Jason at the moment, and he explains in the statement as well how they plan to communicate with fans and get fans' opinions, because technically the fans do get a say now in board decisions and on votes, so that'll hopefully become ever increasingly clearer. Obviously a good step, good to see those sorts of things being in place, real powerful. If done properly, the fans have now got a real powerful voice, 1,500 members of Vicky, and potentially now the wider collective of fans can ensure they have a say in the club, and of course make sure that what happened earlier this year doesn't happen again. Of course, it's still important to sign up to Vicky as well. You can still sign up. The recommended membership is £15 per month, so certainly the club could probably do with that money sooner rather than later. And like I said earlier, the challenge is getting through the rest of this season. So if you aren't a Vicky member already, please do sign up. If you've got any other ideas for fundraising as well, please do get in touch. Feel free to leave some comments on here and I'll pass them on to the respective people. Of course, Whistle are doing their fundraising activity as well. There's a new fanzine that's going to be coming out very soon as well that's I'm a little bit involved with, but all that geared towards raising funds for the club. So on that note, I'll apologise again for my technical gremlins that prevented a little portion of last week's members' night coming in this episode, but there is some insightful stuff with Kieron Purtill and a very quiet Hep Cahill from the members' night, which was held at the stadium last week. That's it from me, though. I'll see you next week. I possibly may record on Thursday. I may release, I may be a day late next week as well, because I may leave it till the sponsors' night on Wednesday. I may not. I'll see how it goes. Please do like, subscribe to the channel, share on Facebook, share on Twitter. Please do leave me your comments. Don't forget to tweet me at jdgsport, and then don't forget to have a look at the forum as well, widnesrugby.com/forum. And we'll move on. Dave Rolt was hosted, Kieron Purtill and Hep Cahill. Follow this.
Okay, let's start with Kieron. First half of the season, either just gone or it's about to. We're almost halfway through the season. I'm going to start my first thing. I want you to give us an insight into, from a coaching perspective, how you think the first half of the season's gone today. Best of all, please.
I think it's fair to say the first half of the season's been a real roller coaster. From initially starting off with what we had as a squad that we genuinely believe would be very competitive towards the top two teams and a great chance of going up, and then going through administration kind of knocked us around a little bit. But I think in saying that it knocked us around a bit, it also brought us together as a group, as players. So from a coaching point of view, I was really happy with the start we had. But then I've also been really happy with how the group's come together and the young players have come in. And now we've got through administration and we've had some good wins. I think the one thing that we'll talk about is with the young group that we've got, that there will be some slight inconsistencies during the year, and that's part of development and players maturing. So I think overall I'm pretty happy with what we've done so far. We've still got a long way to go yet, and we've still got a lot of improvement in us as well.
Okay, the second part of the question. What's your hopes and aspirations, your goals that you're setting yourself or you're setting with the team for the second half of the season?
Well, I think the major goal is to win every single game. We don't want to lose any games, and we never go into a game thinking that we're going to lose it or going with a mindset that we'll take it easy. Every single game we approach with a mentality that we want to win. That doesn't always happen for one reason or another, but I think for us as a group of players and as a club, we have to finish as high as we can, which Phil alluded to before, about financially as well. So there's some targets there for us that that we need to hit and reach for. And we'll take every game as it comes, but ultimately we want to win every single game.
Interesting. And what I'd expect, I'm going to be asking you from a playing perspective very shortly there. Squad, we've obviously got a small squad. You know, it's made even smaller after we went into administration. We lost 3 players. And average age, it's a young team. And we've got some players at the other end of the careers. You know, that it's quite for either one end or the other. Don't pass it to, we need it Friday night. I'm sure from, you know, again, from the head coach's point, does that present some challenges? You know, you're talking about the mental side of the game and young players getting used to backing up performance week after week and the expectations. Are you finding that you're having to rely a little bit too heavy on the senior players, or is the fact that we've got such a small squad, is the fact that you can't even, you struggle to rotate the players to give the senior players a little bit of downtime, or the young players even a rest when they perhaps should need it?
Yeah, it certainly has its challenges. Like I said, we've got a squad where we've got a lot weighted towards the younger end, and then we've got a lot weighted towards the top end, and then we've got Jack in the middle at 24, 25. And if you think, if most people talk about players reaching the peak or the potential, is probably between the ages of 25 and 30. So there's a few challenges in there. Biggest challenge is whose music they're listening to in the gym, first of all. Sam gets his tunes banging away, and Ep and them guys are not too happy with that, so that's a challenge in itself.
But he likes a bit of Glenn Campbell.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
Now go on, Kieran, go on now, mate.
You're a bit older than me.
Just a couple of months. Challenges, young squad challenges.
Yeah, so in terms of the challenge, obviously, if we look at the younger players, first of all, you know, a lot of the guys, this is their first year playing against men, and physically that has its challenges, particularly in the championship. There's a lot of big strong men, and probably some guys in there who are stronger than the Super League players, and you know, these guys have been in Super League, they've dropped out, they've got jobs. Mentally they're mature as well as physically, and they can handle certain situations. So for a lot of our young guys, is exposing them to situations that they've not been used to and how they deal with that. And one of those is probably playing week after week consistently and maintaining the high levels, what's needed every single week. And I think if you look at any successful team who's brought players through at a junior level, you tend to see a trend where, you know, a young player will come in and he'll play really, really well for the first, you know, 3 or 4 weeks, and then his form kind of just dips and wavers a little bit, and that's no disrespect to the player or anything. That's just what happens with young players, and you know, at that point, most clubs or most teams will probably just take that player out the limelight or the top squad for a week or two, and then bring him back in. But the squad we've got is very light, which you've said, so we've not got the luxury of doing that. So some of these, you know, these young players who've been fantastic so far this year, they've got to play their way through that and make sure every single week they try and play to the best, which is difficult when you're not used to it.
And obviously on the other side of that, Keith, do you feel that some clubs are actually looking, they can see a Widnes got a young side, you know, they've had a tough game, they targeted the game against us as not only a big game where there's going to be a bigger crowd if, you know, if we take a big following as we do, but they targeted knowing full well they're going to be playing a young team. So do you think people are resting their players so they can play against us?
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. You know, there's also the aspect that, you know, Widnes is still a big name in rugby league, and we are a full-time team. And you know, Ep will probably talk about it. You can hear the teams we're playing against. You know, let's get into the full-timers. Let's do this as a full-time team, or we beat a full-time team. And a lot of these teams do raise the game. I've said to the players that I might watch the last 2 or 3 games from some of the teams we play against, and the performances haven't been brilliant, but when they play Widnes, they raise the levels. You know, they come there, and you know, almost for some of them, it's like a job interview as well. They want to be playing full time. Some of those players, so certainly it is difficult for it. But you know, we talk about the older end as well. You know, the younger players need managing, but the older guys do. You know, and I've relied a lot on these guys in training on a daily basis, and I think particularly in the early part of the season, or in games and minutes they played as well. You know, some guys, you know, have played 400 games of rugby league, and that takes its toll on the body. So during the week, the challenges for me is managing to make sure that the older guys get on the field, which sometimes that means them not being on the training field, sometimes that means them only getting in with the team on captain's run, and over a period of time that can affect the team and cohesion as well, and how we train. So there's lots of challenges you've got to balance, and every single week's different from the next week, and you know what comes out of a game can change your thoughts for the next game coming forward or the next week. So the key is trying to balance all that out and you know, get the best balance for the young players to make sure they keep developing and getting exposed, but also making sure they're not too exposed, and then making sure these old chaps get on the field.
In the nicest possible way. Nicest possible way. Well, on the subject of that, you know, players, you know, the amount of exposure they get. What's your thoughts on the Easter programme? Do you think it needs a serious look at?
I think it does now. You know, in the past I've been involved, obviously, coaching and playing, and it's just something you just get on with because it's always been there. But I think, you know, this year with the reduction of subs as well, we talk a lot about player welfare, and we've reduced the number of subs, but also the game's getting quicker as well, and a lot more physical, and that has an effect. So I think they've got to be smart and look after the players, and plus the game on a Monday, it's always a less quality game. You know, the entertainment's never usually as good, the crowds are never as big as well. You know, the players are flat, the supporters are a little bit flat. They've had the bank holiday weekend, they've had the Good Friday, and I think if we're looking at it as a game in all for money for value as well, I think it'd be better if that game wasn't played and moved further along the season.
Yeah, certainly, I know it's something that the RFL are looking at. Very valid points there, Kieron. Let's have a chat about how you analyse games. Okay, now, Sam, are we ready to roll on this? Just before we, because obviously we've got, you know, as we'd expect, you're going to have the form ebbs and flows. And I'd be interested, I'm sure many people will be interested, in how do you analyse it? Do you analyse a defeat any different than you would a victory? How do you go about your analysis? And maybe give us an understanding of what we're looking at there on that spreadsheet.
I think the difference between a defeat and a win is I do with a smile on my face when we win. That's the biggest one.
Don't we all?
But yeah, it's a long process, and whether we win a game or lose a game, we generally go through the same thing. Probably to most people on there, that's double Dutch and doesn't mean anything. But for us, we have some performance indicators that we look at, and we know generally if we hit those performance indicators on a weekly basis or our standards, that, you know, we'll either win a game or we'll not be far off. And what's on the screen over there at the moment is from the weekend, and there's lots of green on there, which is generally good. So a couple of things we generally look at is our completion rates, which is the pie chart at the top, which is that one.
Hey, he's got all my like it. That's why you wanted to put it up, isn't it? That's why you wanted
to get his hands on it. So completion rates really how well we keep hold of the ball, and at the weekend we were pretty good, and we generally aim for round about between 80% 90%, and if we get them targets we're not far off. That's why the green's there. If that was Dewsbury, that bit would be red and there'd be a little bit of green there. And the effects of that is what it has on our energy. You know, if you keep hold of the ball and you turn it over in the right areas, then you've got energy to defend and push and come up with better plays. And you know, ultimately against Dewsbury we didn't do that, but at the weekend we had a real focus in what we were going to do about completing and keeping hold of it. So we did really well. That's one target for us which we hit, which was our completion. Then we go into our kicking game, which was our high note kicks. Obviously the blue one's the big one, which is good. The red's negative, so we only had a couple of negatives. And we had lots of repeat sets. I think that was 7 in that game. And that helps us then again to build pressure onto it. Then off the back of it, we have a look at play the balls inside our 20 metres and inside opposition 20. So So the red one was what Swinton had in ours, and the green was what we had inside of Swinton. So if you have more field position and you keep hold of the ball, obviously you're going to tire the opposition out and get more chance of scoring. Again, against Dewsbury, that one was...
He's good, this fella.
And that green one was hardly anything at all, so it all just adds into what we're doing. So they're just little different things that we have targets and are measurable, and then we look at scrums and penalties against. 40 metre sets is a big one for us. That means how many times we've made the opposition either kick from inside their 40 metres or turn the ball over, and if we're getting above 10, we had 15 against Swinton, then we know we have a good chance. We look at tackles, which is 347, again against Dewsbury that was well over 400. And push is people just pushing around the ball, supporting. And a big one for us, particularly in this game, was that one, was our ruck wins. And that's how slow we've made the ruck. We did a really good job against Swinton. And again, our targets are probably anything above 60%, we're doing really well. Again, to give you an indicator, that was probably just below 50 against Dewsbury. So there are our indicators, and then on the side, just in the green box, is just some people's efforts off the ball. So the push, Jack Owens at full back, pushing around the ball, carrying, supporting was good. He told me to make sure I mentioned that. And then we've got a couple of guys in the middle, and just on the carries from the game at the weekend, you've got Ep there on 21, Jay Chaplow on 20, and Sam Wild on 17. Those guys did a big stint for us, and I just thought from the weekend our middle who started, the twins and Ep, did a real good job in the carries. Obviously Ted scored a couple of tries, and defensively for all those guys they were really high. So all that just basically gives you an overview of what we look at. Then off the back of that, then I do individual stats. So I go through the video and click it up. So everyone's tackles, carries, missed tackles, marker errors, kicks, anything basically I want to put in there. And I'll sit down and I'll go through with the team. We'll do a team review. We've got left, middle, right reviews. Sometimes we'll do a back three. Sometimes we'll do the halves. But also I'll get these guys to do it as well. So Hep looks after the forwards a lot. Jack looks after the back three. Gels does quite a bit with the outside back. So these guys have got experience, so I'd be daft if I didn't use that. So that usually takes me, I got home from the game Sunday, I went to bed probably about just after midnight, Sunday night, and then come in early Monday morning and just finish it off. So you're probably about 4 or 5 hours work as a minimum just going into that to get it out for the boys. And generally if we hit our targets, we're not far off, and that's our standards, what we try and reach. And if you probably read some of the reports over the last couple of weeks about putting our effort in the wrong areas of the games and not being quite up to our standards, that's what we measure about, and I'm sure Apple will talk a bit more about that as well.
That's all well and good, like that's from a good performance at Swinton. But how do you deal with when you go through the stats, as you said, the week previous against Dewsbury, and they don't look like that? What impact does that have on the week's preparation, following it up? What sort of things do you emphasise?
But one of the things you want to do as a coach is always keep moving forward and improving. And unfortunately in sports sometimes it happens for one reason or another that you don't quite get your performance like you wanted. And then that week just slightly changes for you, because you have to go back and go over things and readdress things rather than just trying to keep improving and adding on. So it does change your mentality slightly. And I think the week against Dewsbury, we had a focus for that week about just being rugby smart, and that was our theme, and being clever and just thinking about why we did things. For instance, not blaming anyone or anything. Is why we're chucking the ball into touch play one, whereas on the Friday we didn't do that, and that comes down to decision making. And I think again, we've some of the old guys they make errors and mistakes, and certainly some of the young guys do, but it's getting them to understand, what's made the decision to do that and what could have been a better outcome. And that can come through factors in time in the game, how everyone's left on the game, have we completed 4 or 5 sets in a row, have we not completed 4 or 5 sets, and I think ultimately it's just learning the game for a lot of people and understanding it. And we have to be happy to win games 10-0. We don't have to win games 60-0 every single week, and probably that was the case at York as well. We've got to grind some wins out, because you're not always going to play to the top of your level or be right up there, but if you can still win games when you're not at your best, then you've got a good chance of achieving what you want to.
Brilliant, interesting stuff that. Let's have a little talk about the squad, and you've got some experience. You were involved at Leigh in 2016, when they got promotion to Super League. You played a part in building that squad. You know, we're going in to the close season, hopefully with the aspirations of building a squad that could lead to promotion. That's what we're all going to be striving for, hopefully. What's the sort of things that, considerations from a coaching point of view, what are the sort of things that you guide you along that, with the experience you've already gained? What were the sort of things you'd be looking at if you're looking to make additions to the squad?
I think everyone's probably watched the Championship, and it is a different competition from Super League. Just an example, just a player over at Huddersfield, Ollie Russell, who's been on dual reg at Batley, struggled a little bit when he's gone to Batley, not had the best performances because the game's a little bit slower, a bit more physical. He's a young halfback, and he's got a lot of older heads around him who are probably a bit stubborn in some of the ways. But when he goes back to Huddersfield, he performs at quite a high level, and the game looks a lot easier for him because he's got more space and the game's a bit quicker. So there is a big difference, and I thought when I first came into the club, I was happy with the squad we had, but I still thought we were probably just a couple of senior guys short of being, competing and winning those big games against Toronto. And I thought we almost needed a team full of what if you want to talk physical men, and a team of younger kids, and where the games could be a bit quicker, particularly when we played at home. And again, like people like Jack's been in the Championship, there's some real good players in the Championship.
Absolutely.
And certainly, I think people have a perception that just because we're full time, we have all the best players. Not the reality. There's lots of good players out there who are part time, who stay part time for one reason or another, whether that's work or they just fell out with full time rugby, and they're really good players and could push on to that next level. So it has its challenges in recruiting. The venues and the teams you play against also have its challenges. You go into Barrow on a really heavy pitch, you go into Batley on the hill, and you saw the Batley team when they came down the hill. They recruit players for that field, big, thick, heavy middles. And that's what they do. That's the recruit. Dewsbury the same. They're big, powerful men, and again, not having to go on any of our younger players, but. We have outside backs who are probably weighing 90 kilos, tackling people who are 110, 115 kilos, and eventually it's going to take it out of you. So I think when you look for recruiting, you need that seniority and that maturity within your squad. But it's also great, to have these young players. If we didn't have the academy and we didn't have these young players, we wouldn't be able to put a team out, because I've had to delve into there and pull, Ben Davis this year, and I pull Callum out to help us out this year. So it is a challenge to put a squad together. Financially it's a challenge because, again, some of these players who are on part time are very, very good money, and that's why they don't play in Super League. For instance, the players out there who probably, as a ballpark figure, might be a £30,000 Super League player, but his combined rugby and his work money, he's probably on 50,000, so it's not worth him going. So financially has its challenges as well. So there's a lot to think about. It's not an easy task, and also you're competing with the other clubs like Toronto and Toulouse, the full-time clubs who are coming in. From my point of view, I think experience is good, but the energy that the youth brings is good also. And just trying to get that mixture and that balance right.
What do you think is the ideal number? What would you, next year, what would you be looking on now, Kieron? Squad size, 23, 24?
Yeah, Phil's nodding his head.
Alright, so he's old.
It's been about 17 for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah. The last one for the time being to you, Kieron. 1895 Cup. Exciting or distraction?
Win it.
Now we get somewhere. Like it. Good answer. I'm going to end on that. For the time being, ladies and gentlemen, our very own head coach, Kieron Purtill. Right, Right, old Heppy. Old Heppy, as he calls you, mate. Not me. Senior Heppy. Right, mate, obviously you're club captain this year. Club captain of a predominantly very young side. All of which, 99% of them you've known since they first came to the club, because you've been here quite a number of years. Now, I think you're not the most, you're a man of actions, not of man of few words, but man of actions. Have you found it, because you've probably your profile and been the captain, but also been a real senior man in a young team, how have you managed to cope with actually being the genuine leader, week in, week out, having to deal with these young whippersnappers?
Well, it depends who you're talking about. The ones like JJ that give me a bit of grief, but as a whole, I've really enjoyed it. It's it was a big honour for me to come up and be club captain, and Pert's let me captain the team as well. So it was couldn't be more proud, and what the boys have been doing on the field as well. You soon forget how young everyone is. So it's awesome, and I think I learned a lot, especially when we had a loss. Batley gave us a good game. They pretty much outplayed us. Then the York game was just how much pressure there really is, and how much you really have to try and manage. I'm not a big talker, as you said, so how much I need to rely on all the other boys for help. But we're still going hard, and I'm really enjoying it.
So when you say you're not a big talker, man, who does all? Somebody's got to be doing it. So who's the big talkers in the dressing room? Hang on, we've got to. You'll get your time after you do it. Go on then. Who's?
Well, I think Harrison Hanson, he's a good talker. He's kind of out on the edges, and he can see a lot of what's happening in the game and stuff. For me in the middle, I'm just struggling to catch my breath.
Busy.
Doing my best to stay on. So he does a lot of the talking, same as Christine. So lucky in that way. But Jack's at the back can see everything. The twins talk a lot, but most of it's rubbish.
Maybe a round of applause for that. Maybe fuming with that, that's right.
No, they just want to bring a lot of energy and stuff like that, and
That's one thing they do, and they always have done since the first couple of days. It's full of it, aren't they? Can't have enough good energy.
Oh, Tom Gilmore too. He's a halfback, and he's knowledgeable of what's happening and stuff like that. So when he's there, he guides the team around a lot. He's good.
What about Mr. Johnson? Oh, number 9. He's out to his public persona is this cheeky little chappie. What's the reality like behind?
He's always in my office.
Oh, is he now? He's always in his office.
I think
Eating an apple in or something. Go on then.
it depends. If he smashed someone in the first half, he'll pipe up at half time and say, "Come on, boys, we've got to rip in." But he's like the life of the party kind of guy, and gets us through training and brings energy around the training field. So every team has them, and it's good to have them there.